next week, but I don't believe it. See, I only happen to have a match tonight, but I'm still working out because I have nothing else to do. What am I going to do? That's what I do. What am I going to do? Play the guitar?
That guy has got my logo tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, I know.
He's crazy.
Look at him. He looks like he's from Ethiopia. Oh,
He's
that guy.
That guy's got the tattoo. I can't believe it.
Well,
I wouldn't tattoo my own logo on my own arm.
Well, he's a stalker. What do you want?
He's a psycho. I'm scared of him.
Taz is being stalked by a man. Film at 11. Well, why do you get a fan?
Well, he's got a nice ass. Wait, hold on. What the hell?
It's time to play the game. Time to play the game.
I didn't know I was dead.
You did die. We'll play it again. You're dead. Oh,
So
boy.
really, you guys were already dropped the ball. You didn't want to have like a clip of Vince McMahon walking out or like no chance.
Well, actually, I have something for Vince that's better. I think you'll like it.
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I got the looks that drives the girls wild. I got the moves that really move them. I send chills up and down their spines. I'm just a sexy boy. Sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. Boy toy. I'm just a sexy boy. Sexy boy. I'm not your boy toy. Boy toy. I make him hot.
I like how Trey comes on just so you can see that they are brothers.
I'm just saying, it kind of do look alike.
Yeah, we do. Even I see it. Fucking A.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're here. We are here to talk about Vince McMahon, right? That is the premise of today's show, is the Mac Daddy himself, right? Everyone knows Do-Rag Vince is here. Simone Cripp.
Yep.
I am excited. I'm extremely excited to be talking about the Vince McMahon documentary, which was both more interesting and less interesting than I thought it would be. We'll get to that. But let's say hello to everyone here, and then we'll talk to the chat, and then we'll say hello to chat. Mr. T, how are you doing today?
Can't complain, man. I'm going like 3 hours of sleep. I have had a stomach bug ever since last night. So,
well, you literally just said can't complain and then started to complain. I can't complain. Someone killed my
colon out. Hey, it sometimes shit happens, right? So literally,
I guess. All right. Speaking of people who can't complain, Simone Cripp.
What's up, guys? Doing well? It's been a solid Tuesday. The doc's kind of mid. It's all right or so.
Yeah. Are there any Mexicans at your house today?
No, I am not at that house today, so you won't hear lawnmowers and shit.
Damn, I miss
Trey
him.
owns more than one
miss
house.
him.
Confirmed. Money bags. He's Shane. You know what? Trey is Trey McMahon.
Trey McMahon.
Oh
and we have a guest today. If my dog will shut the fuck up for a second. He's apparently upset about something. And maybe it's because Lethal is extremely racist and he wants to be Haitian. Lethal, how are you today? You ready to talk about Vince?
Yeah, when I found out Netflix was making a documentary series about a man that defecated on and debatably in women, I couldn't watch it fast enough. Apparently he's involved with wrestling or some shit as well.
Oh yeah, he also does that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get right to the chat. Let's say hello to everybody here, and then we'll get right into the doc, because, oh boy, it was 6 hours. I watched it all the day it came out, and at the end of the day, I felt like a worse human being.
You binged the whole thing in one sitting?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I had to take a break. I watched the first 4, and then I just finished the last 2 the next day.
To be honest, I've heard of worse shit than what Vince did. To be honest, I've seen
Yeah.
worse. I've
This
done
year
worse.
alone. This year
Anyways, Mr. Bettenham's in the chat. Why
What
is
up, Mr.
Lethal
Bentham?
gay?
Because you suck dick better than a woman ever could.
That's true. Triss is here. Jalek is here. Lethal is here twice. God damn it! Falcon is here. Nasmir is here. Time to play the game. Ho, ho, ho. Last Toxic Male is here, ladies and gentlemen. Sandro is here. Cream. We have to read out our parts here. Lethal, we need you on the podcast.
I don't know, man. I'm busy making Beardo look like a better gamer. It's not easy to do.
We're going to be talking about shitting on women.
Say no more.
Andrew Tate style.
Cinema.
I believe it's morally and spiritually correct to shit on women.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on, come and get it. Come on, come and get it. Come on. No chance. That's what you got. Alrighty. Okay. We gotta get into this.
Yep.
First off, I think how we'll start. We'll ask just very broadly what your thoughts on the doc are, and then we'll delve in episode by episode, right?
Okay.
Lethal, you're the guest, so we'll start off with you. What did you think of the doc just as a whole?
I enjoyed it. We were talking backstage. Me and Samoan Crip and Mr. T were talking backstage, and Samoan Crip made a really good point. It's way more of a WWE doco than a Vince McMahon doco. As much as I did enjoy it, I was pretty disappointed, especially by the advertising. It was advertised, and I looked it up just before, a complete burial of Vince McMahon. And then on top of that, you had the Vince McMahon statement come out like a day before the show going, "Oh, they've fucking done me dirty here." And when I was watching it, like, it's a hit piece, but it's a really bad hit piece. Like, they could have made him look so much worse. It was nothing. There was no new information. It's something like, it's a bad hit piece, I think, is the best way to sum it up. If anything, it actually made me like Vince McMahon more because they do paint him in a bad light. And their big thing is he's hypocritical and a sex addict. Like, oh, really? No shit. Okay. But it kind of made me respect him more about how he overcame everything.
Yeah.
And then like the ending is, oh, and then earlier this year, the sex trafficking thing happened. And they just didn't go into that. It was like, did you guys have any information to like expose him? And there was just nothing. Like, to me, it just ended with, yeah, he probably fucking did it. Like, more than likely he did it.
Yeah.
But that's what we got. Okay? That's what we got. There wasn't really enough to convict him of. And, like, if you do have some hardcore evidence against him, then you should not have made this doco while it's still being investigated.
Yeah. Yeah. The documentary, it seems like they just wanted to do a documentary of Vince McMahon, and he gave them an opportunity to do an interview with them. And they're like, oh, now is our chance. We can make but they weren't really prepared. It is.
Sorry, can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I think me and Cream have talked about this and we both agreed. Tony Atlas carried, and in fact, he needs his own show.
Yes.
I want the Tony Atlas show.
He just says whatever comes to his mind. I love
The
it.
way
does
he
not give a
fucking
fuck.
dressed for this thing as well.
Yeah, someone said he looked like Fred Flintstone.
He did. He fucking did.
If you
Let me
think
see.
that's good, you guys need to watch Legends House. I think it's on Peacock, I believe. It's like one of the Legends.
Oh,
like,
that was a weird. He was in there.
Oh
with
my
Pat
god, I
Patterson.
forgot about that show.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, the
Yeah.
Pat Patterson. Oh god,
Can
yeah.
we please show this image to the chat?
Yes, we can.
This
Yabba
is how he
dabba do
fucking
it.
comes to an interview about Vince McMahon and the history of WWE.
By the way, the entire time he's thinking of the Bella Twins' feet that he wants to lick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nah, he was awesome. He was hilarious. There was one part where I think everybody laughed, but it was really not funny. Like, it's a very serious thing, but just the way he said it was fucking hilarious. We'll get into. I'm sure we'll get into that part.
Yeah.
He said a couple things that were just like, bro, what?
Yeah.
Hold up. Yeah, it was poorly done. It's Bill Simmons, who runs that company, The Ringer.
Yeah.
They were the ones who did this documentary. Now, he did do a good documentary with Andre the Giant.
He did.
The HBO one. Everyone remembers that. He also did the Woodstock 99 documentary for HBO, which was better than the Netflix one, the Netflix one just turned into basically turned into politics, while the HBO one actually stuck with the festival, why it was such a clusterfuck. So going into this, I was like, oh fuck, this could actually be good. This is by far the worst documentary The Ringer has made. I feel like if the route, it was really good. You were like building up to something, and the last episode, which we'll get into, I feel like it stole all the momentum from the show. It felt like somebody put the fucking brakes on it because they had nowhere to go.
Did you also feel like this is like the type of series, it was advertised as like this hardcore series where really it was like, you know, your common wrestling fan probably knows like 90% of the stuff.
We were talking about that a while back when it came, like maybe like a day or two ago. And I was saying, like I knew all this stuff, right? I'm not the most hardcore wrestling fan. Trey and Mr. T are more hardcore fans than I am. But I knew about we'll get into it, the Playboy interview he did. And we'll get into it because it's pretty upsetting stuff that he revealed, he hinted at in that interview that happened to him. The Rita Chatterton stuff. I knew about that. Pat Patterson with the Ring Boys. I knew that as well.
Sorry,
a lot of this stuff had been public.
What Vince said in his statement was completely correct. This doco goes out of its way to try to mix the line. Granted, the lines were already pretty blurred, but it really wanted to mix the line between Vince McMahon and the character Mr. McMahon. It really went out of its way to say it's the same thing. And again, granted, at times it is
sometimes
blurred.
it is, yeah.
And even Vince himself said that sometimes he doesn't know. He's like, am I just the exaggerated version of the character?
Yeah, there was a lot missing, especially
there were so many people missing as well. Like and I'm jumping ahead, but there was a whole episode about Attitude Era, and there was no Mick Foley.
No Mick Foley shown. No Ken Shamrock.
No Kane.
The corporation isn't even mentioned, which was his faction.
Yeah.
Right.
Kurt Angle. They could have
no Kurt Angle.
Yeah, the most we get of the corporation is from WrestleMania 15, where the Big Boss Man gets hung. Yeah. They show that off for a second, and like they show off like DX in blackface, but there isn't much shown of that era. So they went and started talking about WWE, but they didn't even do a good job. Like once you get past like 2000, basically once you get past Benoit, it's like, oh yeah, and then wrestling happened, and oh, by the way, we're in like 2020 now.
Yeah.
Stone Cold looked like a fucking moron in this.
Yeah.
And it was not editing. It was just the shit. The CTE. So
he said some stupid shit.
That's the fucking concussion shit about how, you know, if you get concussions, you go a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And then fucking Chris Benoit happens, and they're like going, dude, the concussions fucked him up. And then you got Stone Cold being like, nah, I don't believe in concussions.
Yeah, he said CTE isn't real.
Yeah, when he said that, I kind of get what he was going for. Maybe he's like, if you use it as a crutch, because there's a lot of people with it, they don't do what Benoit did.
But if you have,
but he didn't word it that way.
Concussions, right?
He didn't word it that way.
But they did a better job of that with the steroid stuff, because initially they were trying to say it was a steroid abuse, and then you even had Bret Hart, who's still in fuck Vince mode.
Yeah,
and he's like, "What a load of shit." Yeah, because what does he say? He's like, if steroids made you cause violence, there'd be no fucking industry, because everyone would have killed each other, because we're all on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the they also had Christopher Nowitzki on there, who used to wrestle. People may remember him from the early 2000s, but he became like a not neurosurgeon, but he basically took his Harvard education and went into studying concussions.
Yeah.
After his career ended because of a concussion, and he went to WWE and helped set up a lot of those like health guidelines that they still use today, right? That's also where they introduced paying for people's rehabs for life if they ever worked for the company, which is one thing I don't think people give a lot of credit to WWE, but they should. And even to Vince, even as big of the piece of shit he is, they paid for Scott Hall's rehab like 5 or 6 times.
More than that.
Xbox too, right?
Yeah.
Xbox too, right?
Scott Hall went to rehab 30 times. Scott Hall went to rehab 30 times, and they paid for everything. And if I can interject,
they probably Benoit spent $1 million on rehab for him.
Oh yeah, and if I can interject the whole thing about Benoit, they didn't even cover that Benoit almost took the entire industry down with him when he died.
Oh yeah, the amount of that nearly hurt it. That and the kind of the steroid scandal a little bit, definitely.
Because wrestling as a whole was scrutinized for God, how many months when Benoit did what he did?
Yeah.
You know,
everything. Dude, that whole, not even months. I would argue a year. Like 2008, even through 2008, you were hearing the
it was a good
if we want to be actually, it's still happening today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's never going to go away, the Benoit thing.
No.
And I'm surprised they even talked about Benoit. That's the one thing when they showed the trailer and they showed off the Benoit stuff. I was like, okay, this might actually be different because it has been tight-lipped. No one has said a fucking word from that company about Benoit since that Raw where they did the tribute show.
Yeah.
It has been like persona non grata.
That's like the only person I saw.
Heyman will say whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the only person.
They talked about Owen Hart for a little bit. They grazed over that. They didn't really mention much other than like Vince giving a really bad reason why he didn't cancel that pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. We get into stuff about Sable. We get into stuff about Trish Stratus is interviewed.
Yeah. They even mentioned Sergeant Slaughter's turn back in the
Iraqi
90s.
Gimmick.
Okay, that was one thing I did like about this was Vince was saying we just looked at the news, saw what was popping in the news, and just worked that in. And then it got to a stage where we're like, okay, this is getting a bit too fucking crazy.
Yeah.
People actually want to kill Sergeant Slaughter now. And then he turns on the TV and it's Operation Desert Storm. And they're like, okay, we got to cancel this whole fucking gimmick.
Yep. And they immediately turned him babyface like right after. They did like a whole storyline where he immediately went back to old Slaughter.
He start teaming up with Hacksaw Jim Duggan for like a minute.
Yeah, didn't he wrestle Sheik and Adnan, who were like his two? Yeah, because they kept them as a tag team.
Yeah,
for a bit.
I did like how they went into building the Iron Sheik. That was the news one that worked because I guess it wasn't uber topical, or at least it didn't result in anything dangerous. I guess that's what the wording was.
Yeah. But Trey, Trey, what did you think of the documentary just as a whole?
It was well made. I liked learning about the steroid scandal because I've really never learned about that, and I'm gonna learn more when I watch the Dark Side of the Ring about it. But that was good. I didn't really care for the Attitude Era episode as much as I thought I would. I really got bothered when they mentioned like, oh, the Attitude Era is misogynistic, all the buzzwords. And but the last episode ended like a wet fart. It just was shit I already learned about 3 months ago. The whole Fitz thing.
Yeah, it was all on Twitter within an hour.
Yeah.
There's nothing new there, man. What are you, Mr. T?
I was like you guys. I was hoping we were going to see like some new information. I thought maybe we would see more inside Vince's personal life, which some of the stuff I already knew about it, like Kareem was talking about earlier. But I thought maybe we're going to get like the old man, Vince McMahon, like, going back, looking at what he did, shit like that, and like talking about all of his scandals. I mean, there's a lot of scandals for Vince throughout the years. So, I mean, I thought we were going to get into that. I thought they were going to bring up Nails, which I was surprised that they didn't bring him up at all. So,
well, I think because the Nails thing is so fucking bullshit. Like anyone with even Stevie Wonder could see the Nails stuff was all bullshit. Was he saying he was gonna threaten to like molest Vince McMahon or some shit?
No, he wanted more money, and Vince told him he wasn't worth the money. So apparently, he grabbed Vince by the throat and started choking him. And Vince was pretty much black and blue. He almost apparently the agents in the back said he almost died. So Vince fired him immediately. And then like 2 days later, he went to go work for WCW. Nails did as the prisoner. And after that, you never saw the guy again. But it was all due to money. But getting back to the documentary, I think it was more of a hit piece than anything like you guys were talking about. I thought it was more of a hit piece. Just to say, look how terrible this guy is. And like there's so many stories of Vince being a complete fucking idiot. And there's also stories of Vince being an actual somewhat of a human being, like taking care of people. Like Bruce Prichard said about his wife having breast cancer or some form of cancer, right? There's a lot more stories that I can't really think off the top of my head, but trust me, there's been a lot of stories that I've heard that Vince is taking care of people that really probably shouldn't. But he did.
There was no mention of everything he did for Andre the Giant.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing about that. Nothing about him giving Iron Sheik so many chances to come back after he got messed up with his cocaine problems.
Jeff Hardy. Let's be real. How many chances Vince gave Jeff?
Yeah.
Even look at someone like Bruno Sammartino. Bruno was fucking huge.
Yeah.
And he ended up having bad blood with Vince. And Vince squashed that bad blood. Vince is pretty good about just repairing bridges with fucking anyone and everyone, right?
Hogan's like probably the biggest one, will we say? Yeah. Hogan.
Honestly, I think I had to give Triple H credit about that one because there was a lot of stuff.
Oh, with Bruno?
Yeah.
I know Triple H worked on that one as well.
So I mean maybe that's more Triple H's thing than brought them two together.
He brought Brett back.
Yeah, Brett.
After.
Yeah.
The only person he never brought back.
Well, after Hogan nearly destroyed his company. Yeah, Savage. Yeah.
Well, if the rumor's true about him and Stephanie, then
that rumor's not true. The timeline does not add up. On the rumor.
Stephanie would have been way too young.
I've got one of the many great quotes of Tony Atlas. Do you mind if I share it?
Of course.
Sorry to sidetrack. Yeah. Chat, I'm telling you, Tony Atlas was the best part of this whole doco. He had so many great quotes. This is one of them.
This is a classic one right here.
And this is not out of context. We abused the hell out of women. All of us did. They were like a toy for us.
Yeah.
He said that like with no fucks given.
That face, by the way, that he's making right there is also fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Do we want to talk? Let's just get into episode 1, right?
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Okay, so episode 1, we start off with basically his very early upbringing. We do get back into it for like literally about 30 seconds later on in the doc.
Yeah.
And then they never address it again.
Yeah.
No.
They didn't even address that he was born in God, it's North Carolina. What is it? It's
Concord.
Yeah, Concord, North Carolina. Yeah, I didn't even address that. Nothing like that. What really pissed me off with the first episode is how the success of Vince. They didn't like they said, Vince did WrestleMania. That was his first pay-per-view endeavor, and like he was just successful after that. Like, no, Vince was a part of the freaking Antonio Inoki and Ali fight in Japan. And then he did the whole Evil Knievel jump that didn't make no money. So technically, that's like his third endeavor going with closed circuit pay-per-view for WrestleMania. And then they're giving all the credit between Hogan and Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T creating WrestleMania. I was pissed off they didn't include Piper. Without Piper and Orndorff being the heels that they were, you're not getting WrestleMania. Yeah. You're not getting that whatsoever. Yeah. And that pissed me off.
Yeah, that was so fucking stupid. They didn't even mention someone like Bob Orton.
No.
Who was actually pretty integral to the finish of that match.
Yeah.
They didn't even really go into how much of like even all the celebrities, they were just like Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah,
they mentioned Muhammad Ali. They showed Muhammad Ali
for
like a second.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali, Billy Martin, Liberace.
Yeah, there was a ton of people that showed up there, and there was a lot going on for that.
Yeah, and what was it? What else they did not disclose in that?
Howard Finkel.
Yeah, Howard Finkel came up with
Howard
the name.
Finkel.
Yeah, Howard
Colossal
Finkel came up with the name.
was the original name.
Yeah,
that's what Vince originally wanted.
Yeah, Vince wanted to call WrestleMania Colossal Tussle, and then you had Hogan's like, "Oh, I knew it was going to be successful." That was funny too, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Howard Finkel came up with the name because he clearly tore one. Well, remember the Beatles? They called themselves the Beatlemania. So why don't we just put wrestle? We're wrestling, so let's put wrestle and mania together, and that's how they got WrestleMania. And then Vince's like, "Oh, I take credit for that." No, Howard Finkel he made that name.
One thing that annoyed me that I noticed is WrestleMania is not the first major wrestling event like that.
No,
it wasn't the first one put on CCTV closed circuit, right? It wasn't even the first. It was beaten by a couple months by I believe it's one of the Starcades. It was Crockett Promotions were the first ones to do a big event like that.
Yep.
I also felt like
it wasn't as much of a it wasn't as much of a risk as Vince was kind of saying it was, and everyone was saying it was, because it was proven to work with Crockett. It's just he brought in that star power, he added a lot of fuel to it, and it was a financial risk because he didn't have any fucking money.
And so plus, Vince is in New York.
But the idea wasn't. Yeah, the idea wasn't a risk.
Yeah, it wasn't a risk, and the reason why I think it was so successful is because you're in New York City. Let's face it, Starrcade was probably like either in the Omni or somewhere down south in the Carolinas, right? So I mean, you're in New York City. Of course, you're going to get more exposure. You're already aligned with MTV, so they're promoting the hell out of it too. Even though TBS was a big thing, I think the first closed circuit pay-per-view for Starrcade was Starrcade '83 when it was Flair against Harley Race for the title, the Flair for the gold. I think that was the first one. So that was '83. So Crockett already had a 2-year jump. Yeah, so they had like a 2-year jump start because WrestleMania was '85 and that was '83. So yeah,
no, Mania was '84.
Pretty sure WrestleMania 1 was '85.
No. I am almost certain it was '84.
I will bet you a uni or what's it called loony.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was '85. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was '85.
I think it was March.
I can't wait to be wrong.
March 31st, 1985.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah. So
well, they did have "Easy Lover" by Phil Collins as the theme, so I got that right. That was kind of wild to see them fucking play the intro package for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn, that is a terrible intro package.
Oh, you go to the
That's fucking awful. Even for the 80s.
Network, or Peacock, it's redubbed. And of course, it's with their own music, but
really, here it's the same. It's the same.
Really?
Like I went to go watch it. Yeah, they licensed all the music for it.
Wow.
I guess.
Yeah. Like here in the States, it's all dubbed over with Jim Johnson, like generic music, like literally.
We also get John Stossel getting the absolute fucking shit snapped out
of him. He got what he deserved.
Yeah, he got
what he fucking. What I love about Vince was like basically, essentially, get that motherfucker without saying it.
Yeah.
Well, if you believe what Dr. Dr. Schultz says in the Dark Side of the Ring episode he did a couple years ago, he said that Vince came up to him personally and told him, "Hey, go up there and smack the shit out of his mouth." Basically, he's disrespecting us. I think
it's probably more of what was in the doc, realistically. Where he's like, I wish somebody would. And then Schultz is like, Vince came to me in a vision.
He probably said that, and he strongly. I can believe he went up to Schultz and like, I really want somebody to slap him.
Yeah.
Really, just walked away. Yeah.
I have never been a fan of John Stossel. I think he's always been a smug douchebag, little fucking bitch. Fuck him. You got smacked with an open hand smack, and he's like, "Oh, now I have permanent damage. I wish you would have taken your life because I can't fucking stand you. You're a piece of shit."
God damn.
In Minecraft. Holy shit.
In Minecraft, but fuck him. seriously,
Hey,
he deserved everything.
Speaking of dumb, stupid little bitches that die in Minecraft, Lethal, what did you think? What did you think of episode 1, Lethal?
I thought the best parts was actually him talking about his dad and just how things were just so much different way back in the day with like the territories and all that. Like, again, it's nothing new, but just to hear it from Vince's mouth about how he really wanted to be involved and his dad just didn't want to buy of it. And then one day he was like, my announcer's been a fucking prick. You go do it.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, it really does highlight that Shane, Vince's son, got done so fucking dirty because he's like, you got to earn the chances. It's like, yeah, but your dad gave you a chance that you never really gave to Shane.
Yeah.
To
he
be
gave
fair,
it to Triple H.
To be fair, Shane did fuck up a lot. Like every chance Shane. Now, to be fair, he got fucked on ECW, which they didn't mention when they were talking about buying the UFC, which is interesting. It's pretty well known now, especially after the merger, that UFC approached WWE and said, "Hey, we'll buy it. You know, buy us." But the original idea for ECW was to run it as an online promotion,
right?
When they were bringing it back, during the infamous do-rag reign of terror of Vince McMahon. But Shane was supposed to run it, and they were just going to put it on the WWE website for free.
Yeah.
And then Vince kind of kiboshed that and made it a TV show. And so that's a case where Shane got fucked because he got fucked. I'm pretty certain
that would have worked.
Because they had Heyman. I'm certain Shane would have brought Heyman over, and if they made ECW an online only thing, you can get away with whatever the fuck you want. That would have actually ended up being okay. It wouldn't be, original ECW good, but it would have been like decent for what it was.
It would have been Raw Light. It would have been
instead
Raw
of Big Show as the ECW champion.
Big Show as champion. They did Big Show versus Batista at an ECW. Man, I love Batista. That's not ECW though.
Nothing says extreme like Big Show versus Batista.
Yeah,
the fucking SmackDown main event from 2007.
That whole ECW run was not good. The only thing we got good out of it is when CM Punk made his debut.
The only good thing we got bodies. That was the only actually good thing we got. That as a lead for the show.
Yeah.
But I think Shane. We're gonna make the Shane for a second. I think Shane. There's no doubt he loves wrestling. You can tell that in the last episode they did. It's like you can see the passion within himself. We'll talk about the business, right? I just don't think that he's that. I don't think he's that creative enough to be a creative mind for the business. I mean, his idea was the Raw Underground stuff that we showed last week. We
got caught. We can't be watched in Sri Lanka on that episode because we showed Raw Underground.
Underground. Yeah.
And I mean, let's just be real. It's Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and he's just trying to take that idea to the masses of WWE. It's like, hey, look, we got a new concept. We got some MMA fighters that used to fight in the UFC and stuff. Look what they're doing now. They're in this warehouse, like it's like Fight Club. It's just like I don't care about that. I just don't. I don't think. Compare Stephanie and Shane, and even Triple H, even if you want. I think Triple H trumps probably Shane in that department.
Yeah, Triple H. Well, Triple H was a wrestler. That helped him. He's always had a creative mind for the business, even when he was a wrestler.
But Vince definitely had more than his share of bad ideas and failures. Not just
World Bodybuilding Federation,
XFL.
XFL, a great example. But he didn't really pass on the same opportunities that he got to Shane.
Yeah.
That is, I think that's a fair. I think he gave Shane too much leniency in certain things and not enough in others. And it's not a good situation. Like there's definitely a frayed relationship there. Like you can tell, like Shane is very much. They even say it in the doc that he's like the black sheep of the family. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
He still loves his family. That's very obvious by everything he says, right? But also, you know, there's something to he's not the same as
Stephanie's more business minded than him.
Yeah.
Someone says it that Stephanie just has more. Even Stephanie has more of a mind for. I don't agree with that. We saw Steph's mind for the business a couple years ago.
I think she's better at networking than Shane.
She's better on the screen than the behind the scenes.
Like you guys were saying, I think Shane's really down to, like, comparing to like the rest of the McMahons. I think he's pretty much the coolest one out of all of them. Like as a human being, like kind of level. I think that's Shane, right? Stephanie's more the business mind, and Triple H, you know, what's the old saying? He married Sean and fucked Stephanie. So that's pretty much what he did. And now look at the thing, he's running the whole thing now. So Stephanie's not even in the picture. Yeah. She's gone. So
that fucking they showed one of my favorite clips where it's peak roided out Vince McMahon with his arms that are just fucking the size of my legs because of all the roids. When he clotheslines Stephanie and just
straight before her fucking wedding.
Yeah.
It was right before her wedding too. That was how he was gonna write her on TV.
She
joked her in the pipe, and that's it.
He clotheslines her, turns around, looks at the camera, and he's got that fucking Vince McMahon face.
She told it like she was fucking Paul London, did a fucking flip inside out almost.
And since we're talking
she died.
Who? Okay.
Stephanie died, bro. She never recovered from it.
But going back to the first episode, I did not need to see Vince in the fucking banana hammock on his vacation for Mania.
God, that was wild, bro. I was like,
I didn't need to see that. That was.
I didn't need to see that.
He liked sex. He told us.
Yeah. The first episode was all right. It was. Like you said, it was already news I already knew, and some of the stuff was like, nah, that's bullshit. You're not even talking about this, not even disclosing that. You're taking credit for this, blah, blah, blah. But banana hammock, though, kind of scarred me. So,
was the second episode the court case?
Yes.
Yeah.
The steroid trial.
Yeah. Trey,
I did like.
What are your thoughts on the first episode?
First episode was really good. I did like how much he was talking about how much he poured money into WrestleMania 1. I did like that stuff. Some of the stuff with his family was interesting and his upbringing. I really wish the episode 1 was his upbringing. I didn't need.
Yeah.
I think it also felt like they were trying to rush through they rushed through 3 WrestleManias, right, in that first episode.
Yeah.
And I think I would have liked more of a story on 3 because. That's probably his biggest at least his first really big WrestleMania. I love WrestleMania 1 and 2, but 3 was that's his big one.
Yeah, 3 was the holy shit peak of the 80s big.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that
glossed over it. And they glossed over I feel like they glossed over it, honestly.
They kind of cover more in the second episode, but we'll definitely get into that because there's some
2 got a gloss over it. Oh, yeah, WrestleMania 2 happened.
WrestleMania 2 is not good. It is not a good pay-per-view. Three locations in one night. Holy shit! You're talking about a production nightmare, dude. Holy crap.
They went into that. Yeah, that was eye-opening. I didn't even remember that it was 3 locations.
Chicago,
why
LA.
Do you think that was gonna work?
That was a fucking clusterfuck. Of that. Was this the episode? Okay, no. Next episode's with the Union. Yeah, I think that's about it for episode. Episode 1 was actually kind of where I was like, I don't know about this. Once you get into episode 2, it really does pick up, and it's like, oh fuck, okay, we're getting into a lot of stuff here. Episode 1 was, I think, lacking.
We know what's funny. They didn't even talk about him like his stepdad, really, because he made comments and said that he wanted to delete his stepdad when he got old enough if he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of surprised they didn't cover that either, because Vince said that I think he mentioned that in the Playboy interview, I believe.
yeah, that Playboy interview, and we will get to it because they are going to bring it up. Dude, I remember hearing that, and I'm like, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it just like armchair psychologist. That makes sense. That's why he's fucked up.
Yeah,
lines up.
All right, let's get into episode 2. Lethal, I'm gonna have you kick it off. What did you think of episode 2 of the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix that came out?
Much better than the first episode. I think everyone was a bit iffy on the first episode for the most part. I know Trey was a bit more positive, but the second one was far better, getting more into the steroid scandals. The video of him walking out of the court with the fucking neck brace and shit.
Oh yeah.
And they do bring up a good point. Like, it is a fucking hit piece, but they're like, Vince is a master of everything's on camera, you know, everything's a performance. Yeah. So it's like, was he leaning into it a little bit to try to get sympathy? You had the whole Hulk Hogan angle and how he fucked over everybody, like the government and shit, to back up Vince. Yeah. Is this also the same episode about the Ring Boys, or was that episode 3?
I think that was the same episode, I believe.
Yeah, same episode, yeah. Because it was a bunch of things. I think the Rita stuff was this episode, right?
Right. Yeah. So this episode also has a lot of the sex scandals starting to happen as well at the same time. And you get the greatest quote of the whole documentary from Tony Atlas. Cream, can you please say it?
Yeah. Do you want me to try to say it like Tony Atlas? Here we go. I was in the locker room and Pat Patterson. I didn't like Pat Patterson. He kept trying to grab my pecker. So now we know that apparently in the locker room, Pat Patterson was constantly trying to jerk off Tony Atlas.
Yes, apparently that was a surprise. I'm like, whoa.
I didn't love Pat Patterson. He grabbed my pecker. Just like,
I know there was some story the way he said it. I know with Pat Patterson, there was a story about he took Tito Santana and I forget, maybe Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to a gay bar, and they didn't realize it until like 40 minutes, and they're like, "Where are all the women, Pat?" Yeah, it's like,
it was bizarre though, because they're going on about the Ring Boys and how like the Ring Boys were being molested, and you know, was there the cover up and all that type of shit. And then it goes right to fucking Tony Atlas being like, yeah, they were touching my dick too. And like, you look at the photo of him back in the day, you're like, fucking hell, look at the size of you.
Well, they completely glossed over the fact that it was like a full-on sex ring that was happening. Pardon the pun.
It was.
Yeah, the Ring Boys were involved in a sex ring.
Yeah, even Bret Hart said the ring announcer was a PDF file.
Yeah, everyone said that. They're like, he's a disgusting human being.
Yeah,
he's a sick fuck. And then Pat Patterson became unscathed by that. I don't know if there's proof that he did anything other than someone just saying he did. And again,
I believe Tony Atlas though.
Oh, he definitely tried to jerk off Tony Atlas. I'm not like, obviously he's
okay.
Gay.
I'm not. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute. And I know this might sound taken up for Pat, but I'm just going to say this, okay? In locker rooms and sports, right? There's a lot of weird shit in clubhouses. You know, football, baseball. There's a lot of weird shit, right?
There's a lot of jerking off Tony Atlas.
So I mean,
with that one, that's just kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. But with the Ring Boy stuff, I don't know if he actually was.
I haven't seen any proof of that.
Yeah,
I think that stuff happened. I just don't think he was part of it.
I believe Bruce Pritchard was the one that brought up, like, hey, it was the 80s. He was openly gay and he was involved in wrestling. I'm sure somebody probably put false blame on him just to fucking fuck with him, because we know enough about wrestlers from the 80s to know they're all fucked up people. Just wait. Tony Atlas, we already saw the quote Tony Atlas put up about them, right? Yeah. That they were just all fucking molesting women, basically.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that like being a little bit homophobic and a little bit racist is like too far-fetched for these people? No, there's a lot of pieces of shit.
Back in the day, I can believe that being homophobic, like being gay, I can believe that back in the day. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
so
it's like that Donahue show. I think they brought it up in the clip. Like he got fired because he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't have sex with Pat Patterson," and he was a grown ass dude. So I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think Pat was a kid.
No, he was just a horny gay guy. He wasn't a pedophile.
Bad jazz, bad jazz.
Now, did Pat Patterson do fucked up shit? I totally believe that Pat Patterson fired that guy for not wanting to have sex with him.
Yeah, I do
believe that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I don't believe for a minute that he was doing stuff with kids.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this whole episode
fucked up as Vince is, I do believe, based on what we're going to eventually talk about, he will not deal with that type of shit.
He also has a type, and that does not fit his MO.
Yeah.
And he's everything's money to him, all right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no money in that. It's just going to cost him money because it's just going to be constantly covering up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you could say, yeah, but he spent a lot of money to cover up with his own shit, but he was using those women to make money as well.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like that
I'm just saying, I don't think what Tyler's about to say. I don't believe Rita at all. I just don't.
Rita Chatterton? Yeah, I don't believe that at all either.
Oh, she's full of shit. She was just looking for a paycheck, and she wasn't expecting Vince to fight it.
Yeah. Because Vince definitely got a type, and trust me, I don't think that was his type. Like,
if that happened, why are you going on a basically equivalent of the Jerry Springer show, not the police?
Yeah.
Nah, she was just looking for a paycheck.
Yep.
And she thought she could get away with it. She had press on her because at this stage, she already had the media being like Vince McMahon's the devil. So they were just looking for anything that they could possibly use against him. And then she takes advantage of that to be, hey, look at me. I'm this god-awful victim. By the way, a few dollars and all of a sudden I'm not such a victim anymore. And
I
Vince
guess
was
this
like,
is,
get fucked.
I guess this is a point where we have to mention Phil Mushnick, who was kind of a ringleader behind a lot of this like shit against Vince. Because let's be honest, Phil Mushnick is a piece of shit.
Yeah,
he didn't like wrestling, and because of that, he would find every tiny whisper of something happening, and instead of actually checking this stuff out to see if it's legit, he would fucking run with it. It led to a lot of things happening, including the steroid trial, which everybody in this doc says the government had literally nothing on him. Like he should have not.
Nope.
He shouldn't have even been prosecuted.
Even the Vince haters. That Vince, the big time Vince haters were like, nah, there's no way. Like you got no evidence on him. Like who
Dave Meltzer?
Dave Meltzer?
Yeah, Dave Meltzer. Yeah.
Where he was like, fuck Vince, I hate him, but what a waste of everybody's time this was.
Even Phil Mushnick said that. But this is Phil, Dave, everyone said this. But Phil Mushnick is the one responsible for a lot of bad press with wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the stuff that ended up coming up in the 90s, in the 80s, that's all Phil Mushnick's fault.
Yeah.
Just because he hated the business.
I have been holding on this since yesterday or Thursday, one of the case about Phil Mushnick. He is a limp dick little fucking four-eyed bitch. Fuck you. Yes. I cannot stand that motherfucker. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. He wants the whole entire genre of pro wrestling gone. He hates anything.
Yeah.
The only reason why he went after WWF and WWE is because it's in the same market that he's in. They're in New York City or Connecticut, and he's in New York City. That's the only thing it was. It's the only thing it was. He was going against the top wrestling promotion in the country. It's the only thing it was. He was trying to make a name for himself.
If he had been in Atlanta, he would have been going after Ted Turner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he would have been going after WCW if they, let's say, won the war.
Yeah. He's a real limp dick piece of shit. Fuck him.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Yes, and
he's a British cigarette.
I like the fact they interviewed him, but also they gave a lot more credence to him than they should have.
Yep.
They made him look like he was a sympathetic character, and I don't believe he is. Just from an objective level, his entire reason for going after Vince wasn't because Vince was doing things that were wrong. Vince was. His entire reason was, I want to kill this entire genre of entertainment.
Yep.
Which is so fucking
basically destroy
such
careers.
a level of scumbaggy, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to do the same thing that John Stossel was doing. He was trying to ruin that for everybody, just like he was trying to take a page out of John Stossel's playbook. And that's what John Stossel said. All this is fake. It shouldn't be allowed. This should not be anywhere. Kids shouldn't be here. People shouldn't be here. This whole thing should be gone, barred from the States, right?
Dude, he looks like the type of guy, he's scared of his own shadow. Fuck that motherfucker.
Oh, Phil Mushnick's a little pussy ass bitch, limp dick.
Well, hey, with that, Trey, you wanna tell us what you think? Because I know Mr. T has a lot to say on this episode, so I'm gonna let him go last. So Trey, what are your thoughts on this episode so far?
Episode 2 was much better. I learned a lot about that steroid scandal, and it definitely they brought up the 83 weeks too. Which to be honest, I didn't need a lot of focus on that. I already known that, and they lost. I don't really think we need a retelling of the Monday Night Wars, really. Grant, I did like hearing his perspective on when Hogan joined WCW. That was interesting. But yeah, Phil Mushnick's a piece of shit. Good episode, though. That's all I gotta say about that.
Mr. T?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I want to say because I'm trying to censor myself for YouTube. Pretty much, Phil Mushnick can get fucked. If he got hit by a fucking 18-wheeler, I'd probably go to his grave and take a big old shit on his tombstone. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit. The only thing he is, a little fucking piece of shit. And he even admitted it in the episode. Oh yeah, I was an informant to the FBI. So in that statement alone, demolished the FBI and fuck him.
Fucking snitch. I was like, that's all I thought when he said that. Was fucking cool.
He made us white people look even worse.
Yeah.
Literally.
He that's a fucking quote right there, isn't it?
He made us all look bad. Even worse.
He's a typical white, I'll say it, white liberal. He's a typical white liberal. I didn't want to make it political, but fuck, I'll say it.
Yeah.
Speaking of politics, they do make the doc political a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 5?
Yeah, 5 when they mentioned Trump. Yeah, when they mentioned Trump, yeah.
But I think we're kind of glossing over, too, about the union stuff about that episode. That was kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's episode 2, right? Episode 2 is the union.
Yeah.
The No Holds Barred movie. There's a lot of shit.
Dude, I love how they mentioned the No Holds Barred movie. I'm like, no wonder it was so fucking bad. I'm like, they wrote it in night.
I did not know Vince wrote the script with Hogan. If that's true, I did not know that Hogan.
It's even worse than that. Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan wrote the No Holds Barred movie together by themselves in 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? That movie was competing with Batman '89, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And you know what's really you know what? I think it's 80 WrestleMania 4. So WrestleMania 4 would have been
89.
Right?
4
was 85. 6.
No, yeah, 4 would have been 88. Yeah, 85 was 89.
Because I think that's the reason why Hogan wasn't in that tournament at Trump Plaza when Macho Man won the title from DiBiase. Because I think he was filming No Holds Barred. But nevertheless, I didn't know Vince helped write that movie. And and you got Vince saying what he said, like, oh, well, Hogan wanted to do movies. And I'm like, well, I'll make this with you. That's what's funny about Piper. That's why Piper dipped the year before. That's why he won his match against Adrian Adonis at WrestleMania 3, because he wanted to go do They Live. Vince told him absolutely not. So Piper told him, well, I'm done, and I'm going to go film this movie. And that's why you didn't see Piper till WrestleMania 5. That's why he didn't even show up. And
is this the same episode where they talked about Vince McMahon Senior was like, we're never touching movies, and then Hogan was like, fuck you, I'll do Rocky 3.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And they talk about, they kind of backtrack a bit, and they talk about swooping up a lot of the talent. They don't talk about certain things at all. They just kind of are like, yeah, he went through and just took everyone.
Yeah.
That was about it. Like, when you're doing a documentary, like, you don't say like, oh, he took this guy from this place, this guy from this place. It's like, He took everyone from the AWA and like half the stars from everywhere else.
But that's the thing, though. I will give Vince credit on one thing. Before he took everyone's talent, he met with every territory owner, talked to them, and tried to buy them out. He was successful on some of the territories. He bought some of the territory guys out. But like the people like Vern Gagne and Bill Watts and Crockett and whoever you want to put up there, they said, "Fuck you. We're not doing it. We'll compete." It was like Ole Anderson. What's the Ole Anderson quote? "Fuck you and fuck Linda."
Yeah,
when I tried to buy Georgia Championship Wrestling, and that's another thing too. They didn't even cover how Vince took the WWF to TBS and they bought the time spot for Georgia Championship Wrestling. They didn't even bring that up.
Took it over. Completely took WCW at the time. Well, Georgia Championship
Wrestling. Yeah, it's
took
because
it off of TV.
Yeah, and I think it's because the Briscoes, they owned half that territory with Ole, I believe. That's what the case was. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure the Briscoe brothers had stake in that territory, and that's the reason why that Vince was able to go in there and get their time spot for TBS. But they didn't even cover that. But like I said, Vince offered to pay people out. And
he successfully bought out, I believe, up here. He bought up Maple Leaf Wrestling, which was the Tunnies. Hence why you get Jack Tunney, who was the GM figure during the 80s.
Yep.
And he bought out
Stampede.
Most famously Stampede. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the biggest promotion he was able to buy out.
Even though he did not pay the money in full. That is documented.
Yeah, and even though Stampede ended up coming back 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But
but the whole thing was they're trying to picture Vince as a monster, and everyone's like, well, he took Hogan. Hogan already had the stuff laid out for what the Hulkamania character should have been. But Vince, no pun intended, put the Hulkamania thing on steroids.
Yeah.
It's like Hogan was already doing the
Eye of the Tiger's theme was perfect because
he was in the
Rocky
movie.
3.
It made sense.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I think that's where the difference between McMahon Senior and Junior or VKM, whatever you want to call him. He had offered to do the Andy Kaufman match before he went down to Memphis and did it. And that's what he said, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We're not getting involved in that. And I think that's what Vince Jr. saw, the success they had with a celebrity in wrestling, and said, okay, we can do this too. And that's why they did what they did with Hogan, because Hogan was already a star in AWA, and that's what made him famous doing the Rocky movie, put him on the map, because that's as soon as he was done doing that, Gagne called him up. It happened for 2 years. So
they talk about WrestleMania, the attendance record, the attendance for WrestleMania 3. It's probably a bullshit number, but I also, let's be honest, all wrestling attendance numbers are most likely bullshit. They gas them up though. Every promotion gasses it up to make themselves look good. TNA used to gas themselves up, and they just had the Impact Zone. Right?
The most recent one is All Out from 23, and Dave Meltzer loves to tell people, no, they didn't have 90,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome. They had 70,000. But when it's a proven fact, he wants to dick ride AEW and tells everyone, oh no, they had 80 to 90,000 people last year at All In, and that's false. That's 75. They had 75,000 people for attendance for All In last year's pay-per-view. But of course, Dave's got to dick ride that, but he's a hypocrite when it comes to the WWE.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the fucking time. There's also the stuff about WrestleMania 7. Right? They talk a lot about Sergeant Slaughter and this and that. Now, there's 2 stories as to why the location for WrestleMania 7 changed. It was supposed to use the LA Coliseum, the big one from the Olympics. The Raiders, not the Raiders, the fucking Rams played there for a bit. Now they use it for NASCAR races and fucking concerts and shit.
Yeah.
Well, that was originally supposed to be the venue.
Yep.
It then changed a couple weeks before the actual event. There's 2 stories. One WWE gives is Sergeant Slaughter was getting so many death threats, we had to move it to a smaller venue.
Because there was bomb threats. Yeah, because there was bomb threats.
There was bomb threats and stuff.
Yeah.
The other reason is WWE tickets were not selling well for that event.
Yep.
And they moved the event last minute before it would be too much. Then you would have to give refunds. Well, this way they moved it so they wouldn't have to give anyone refunds for their tickets. They were able to easily move to it was like a convention center or something.
Yeah.
The truth is probably in the middle.
It's
probably a little bit of both.
I think it's both. Probably.
Yeah, it's probably the latter.
And they're probably getting smaller attendance because people hated the slaughter turn. They did. They absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
And then the Desert Storm. I really do like that they mentioned Desert Storm is what really did it.
Is it because you're a Yusuf fan?
Yusuf.
Yusuf from GTA 4, my favorite wrestler.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that is important. Like, that's when they never really ever. They just kind of said the U.S. and Iraq went to war, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's that. There's the union stuff, which is, I think everybody knows. Jesse Ventura wanted to start a union. Hulk Hogan ratted him out.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, right? There's never going to be a wrestling union now, nor is there even a need for it anymore. No. Luckily, so things ended up working its way out.
Not for a union.
It took 20 years.
That's my hot take. I think a wrestling union would be even worse.
Today,
I don't like how Hogan.
Yeah,
it would probably be better today, but back then it would be fucking shit. I'm just gonna keep it real.
No, it would have been. It would have just fallen under Hogan having dictatorship control, because everyone would have been like, "Well, he's this top guy. We got to do whatever he says."
Well, too.
How does the union like? How would it work? Because they weren't employees.
Yeah,
they weren't even under contract. It was just handshake negotiate. They weren't even really employees. It was like hiring someone to go do your deck. That was the equivalent.
Yeah.
Like, it was the equivalent of picking up 40 Mexicans at Home Depot to come redo your bathroom.
Yep.
Like, I guess you're technically their employer, but you're just handing them like wads of 20s and telling them to get the fuck out. Right.
Yeah, that's you actually made an interesting point there about how it was all handshakes. Later on when it shifts to more the WCW, he said we had so many handshake agreements with people and they all fucked me over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest one's Lex Luger. But going back to the union, Hogan did what he did because it's common. I think it's common sense. Top guy getting the most money. He's getting the most money out the entire gate. You know, regardless how much like he was getting for like the purse for the building, he was making killing in merch, and he knew, oh shit, if there's a union, that means my pay is going to be decreased substantially, right? Or significantly. Sorry. So. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's right what he did, but it's the unions will never work because, like, you know, in a union they're supposed to be like the seniority guy, right? Like the seniority guy of the locker room. Yeah. And like you have to go back and look at that. Like, if there was a union, probably the Undertaker would have been later down the road. He would have been like the union guy, like he'd been like the head union dude, right? But like I said, it would never worked. The whole union stuff will never freaking work because you can see like in Hollywood.
Not in wrestling. It just doesn't work. There was one more thing about this episode I wanted to point out. We get talk about WrestleMania 6 with Hogan and Warrior. And they talk about how Hogan was losing popularity, which is true. People were getting tired of it.
Oh yeah.
But they don't mention the fact that Warrior was a fucking terrible world champion.
Disaster.
Oh,
he was house shows.
No, dude. No, they say he was a shit wrestler. They don't say he was a bad champion.
Yeah, they just kind of gloss over, like, how bad he was.
It's in the records.
Yeah. So they're basically at one point they were doing 2 series of house shows.
Yeah.
Right. And they split the roster kind of in half. Right. But one guy was going to sell it out, right?
Right.
So Warrior was on one set of shows and Hogan was on the other. And now this is when Hogan is becoming unpopular. They're cheering, but they're not cheering as much. They're kind of they want to see other people, right? Randy Savage is, I would say, more popular at this point, even though he was a heel.
Mm-hmm.
And Hogan's shows were selling out. Warrior shows, they weren't always sellouts. Some of them were falling like pretty far below, and he was WWE champion. So they ended up then switching it back to Hogan through, I think it was Slaughter, right? They did that whole bullshit. Slaughter, and then 7 Hogan gets the belt again, right?
Yeah.
So there was that, but they never brought that up.
No.
And it feels like kind of an important thing to show, like, how Vince
Warrior wasn't the guy.
Creative. He tried to change the creative, and he messed up, and then he changed it back again and got it back to a place where it was semi-stable, right? I feel like that could have been important, especially to showcase kind of how he was booking. Especially if it's a documentary about the guy, maybe that's a good anecdote. But instead, we had to have everybody chip in about how he didn't do anything illegal during the steroid trial. Well, after the fourth person says that, I fucking get the idea. But every single person they interviewed had to say, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He didn't. It was like 15 minutes of that in the documentary.
Or we had to talk about WCW, the start of the Monday Night Wars.
Well, Eric Bischoff saying 83 weeks like 400 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and going back,
that was stupid. Was it 83? 84? Was it 84? Was it 84? Was it 84?
Like, Eric, by the way, my show's called 83 weeks.
Yeah, it's not the 90s anymore. No one cares.
And
the only thing Eric Bischoff's done since WCW is fucking fly fishing. All right, I don't want to fucking
ruined
hear
TNA. He ruined TNA.
Oh yeah, that's true. He did help do that.
There was some stuff that I think that he could have done better in TNA, but I'm not gonna place the whole blame on him. I
more blame Hogan, but I think he's part of it. I'm more blame Dixie. I more blame Dixie above all.
There's a whole lot. We can do like a whole episode just talking about TNA, what happened to that shit. But getting back to the steroid thing, they failed to mention back in the day you could have just got steroids over the counter because anyone could buy them. Like there wasn't like something like it was like you needed like actual prescription. I don't think. Because I've heard guys say
it became illegal like a year or two before the trial.
Right. So, but back in those days, though, you can just go over the counter because they were using that for rehabilitation for like torn hamstrings or recovering faster if you had like a torn pec or something like that, right?
Even for normal wear and tear, like they were using it. They're wrestling 300 days a year. Especially if you're in the South, you were wrestling probably 2 days on Sunday. Like 2 times on Sunday. Like if you go through and all the old wrestlers will be like, this was my schedule. We're on the road all the week. We get like Friday and off. And then Saturday we're wrestling twice and Sunday we're wrestling twice. And it's like, that's a lot for your fucking body, even if you're in good shape. So the steroids was meant to recover. It wasn't meant to get muscly gains. It wasn't meant to be a fucking drug addict. It was, hey, I'm in a lot of pain and painkillers.
I do like though that a lot of
really expedient then.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys in the dog basically admitted we just did the steroids on our own, basically.
Yeah. And like that's another thing too. It was like, oh, Vince is like he's supplying it now. Here's the thing. Do I think that Vince told a guy and said, hey, you might want to get, you might want to look bigger, like hit the gym? Sure. Yeah. I'm not going to say he didn't say that, but I don't think he said, hey, listen, you got to do steroids if you want a job. That's not
here.
The case.
Let me put this needle in your asshole.
Yeah.
Real quick.
It's like the Barbarian story. You guys know the Barbarian story that Kevin Nash tells?
Oh, fuck. Oh God. I don't know.
Okay, so Nash telling the story, he's like showing like they play like a word association like with the needle.
Fucking hell.
Fucking A.
I agree though. That's what I think happened. I think the doco was accurate on that. Vince never said, "Oh, he started shooting up," but he said, "You got to get bigger." I mean, they even talked about it. How back in the day, like the start of Vince's reign or his dad's reign, it was mostly just burly dudes, like your typical like Dusty and all that. And now all of a sudden it's fucking Ultimate Warrior, where you're looking at him, you're like, that's not fucking natural, man. Vince had a thing for that type of look, so he definitely would have been like, you want to fucking fit in a bit better, but he never went, "Oh, put this in you."
He himself was doing fucking steroids.
Yep.
Like I
Vince
said at the
was
start,
always
you see
jacked.
his arm.
Even
It's
through
like
the
this fucking
2000s.
big.
Yeah.
Even through like 2003, that was probably Vince at his biggest.
That's
Like,
peak Vince. Wrestling
Yeah.
god, all that stuff. All right, let's go into episode 3. Episode 3, we get a lot of info. This is one thing that Mr. T has done extensive notes here, by the way. It's helping me keep track of what I have in my head as well. But he does mention there was a screw job in the early days of wrestling back in the 40s and 50s. Funny how they say Wendy was the first one. Well, it gets even better because at this point they get ready to talk about the Montreal screw job. So they go back a little bit to Wendy Richter, who was kind of had what do you call it? She had Cyndi Lauper as her manager for a little bit there. Now she wanted a raise right before a match. She demanded some money. So she went out for the match. I believe it was maybe not right before the match, but she demanded a pay raise. They got fucking the fabulous Moolah to dress up as the Spider Woman and then proceeded to put the title on Moolah. And they screwed Wendy Richter. She was gone. Yeah. She was gone for years until she came back and they inducted her in the Hall of Fame, right? But she was done with WWE. I think she did stuff with Glow, but she was
She didn't even go to WCW, I don't think.
No, she was already retired by then. But because this was like 85, 86 that this happened. It was right after Mania. Because she was not there at Mania 2. But here's the interesting thing. They didn't bring up one of the screw jobs that happened, which involved Ed the Strangler Lewis in Montreal back in the 40s. Yeah. There was a Montreal screw job before the screw job. It's happened like 100 fucking times. There's always something that happens where a wrestler doesn't want to do business. The promoter gets somebody who's going to do business for him, as Triple H says, and they fuck the person over.
Hey, before we get into the Bret Hart stuff, one thing I did like about this episode was the different perspectives with the curtain call. When everyone got in the cell and hugged, and it completely shattered the illusion, right? It's wild to see like all the different generations react to it, and you got like your old heads and your Undertaker who falls in with the old heads. He's like the last of that era, and they're all saying we fucking hated it. It was the worst thing ever. A lot of them called it the death of wrestling. They're going, that's the day it ended. And then you get to like newer generations where like even like John Cena and Cody Rhodes, they're like, we loved it. We thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Shawn didn't think it was a big deal.
Shawn was sort of in the middle of it, wasn't he, man?
Yeah. Yeah, it involved Shawn, and he was like, well, I guess it's fine.
But this is the wild thing about it was we wouldn't have Stone Cold without, well, we would, but he wouldn't be like where he was without it because of that.
Yeah.
Triple H didn't win is it King of the Ring? He didn't win King of the Ring. Instead, they gave it to Stone Cold.
Yeah, he didn't win it until like a year later. It was a year later he won it.
Yeah, he won 97.
Yeah.
Because I believe 95 was Owen. 96 was
Austin.
Steve.
Yeah, 97 was Austin. Because 98 was Shamrock. That's why.
Yeah, and 97 was... That was a pretty good 4 years. That's a pretty good run for King of the Ring, though. Yeah. But yeah, we get that infamous Austin 316 says, I just whooped your ass. How about you go drink a cheap beer, Thunderbird? Oh, that promo
more
does
WCW
not age.
Stuff.
That promo doesn't age well when you realize
it doesn't,
Roberts is such an addict.
Especially with Stone Cold when he's talking about it, and you can see the moment where Stone Cold's like, oh fuck, I'm actually like hyping people up here. I got to keep going, and he's just making it up on the spot. And you can see a part where he's like, I got to button it. 316.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking. It's one of the best fucking promos of all time. Maybe the best.
But when you watch him break it down, you go, it's a fluke.
Yeah, he's fucking lucky for that one. I do really like the Shane Douglas promo when he wins the NWA world championship, and he just fucking throws it on the ground. He's like, they can all kiss my ass.
Oh, my favorite promo when Triple H says, "I'm the fucking game," to JR. That is
my favorite promo is Scott Steiner saying, "I'm the big bad Buddha Daddy."
Or Matt promo. His Matt promo.
Just any Scott Steiner promo is, "I'm the big bad Buddha Daddy." Yeah, we got a clip of him saying it.
Freaks. Yes. I got this one freak that I'm trying to get rid of from Jersey, though. She's out to here. Nah. What about that one you got? It's your boy again? Yeah. Retired. Okay, listen, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I got freaks 9 days out of the week. I can give him... I was only 7 days in a week. Man, you ain't big pop. I'm the big bad booty daddy non-stop. Now listen, English.
I'm the big bad booty daddy. But this episode, I think I speak for everyone. We were like, oh, for fuck's sakes, like the screw job again. I get it. It's a very, very important part. But this is supposed to be like a Vince McMahon doco. And this is the part where you go, this is just a WWE doco now.
Yeah.
I do like how they got into WCW a lot more of this episode. And it showed Hulk Hogan turning heel. And like, man, you forget just how much fucking garbage ends up in that ring when everyone goes crazy.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about Eric Bischoff, but when he was doing his WCW run, he was fucking kicking ass. And they didn't really
the first
show.
half of it, he was going fucking crazy.
Yeah, that first year, 96 to 97 was peak.
Well,
WCW.
there was one thing I heard that he wanted to do in 96 when he took over, which or was it 96 or 95? It was right when he started. And hearing about this now after the fact, this could have been a horrific timeline we lived in. He wanted to start up the cruiserweight division in WCW early because they had Brian Pillman, right? And that was when he was doing Flying Brian and stuff. And the only people they had for the cruiserweight division that they were going to put with at the beginning was Alex Wright. If you remember Alex Wright, the German dancing man.
Yeah, the dancing guy, yeah.
And Triple H before he went to WWE. That was their cruiserweight division was going to be Triple H, Alex Wright, and Brian Pillman.
Triple H is not even at that time. I wouldn't call him a cruiserweight.
Well, and they ended up waiting, right? But, yeah, WCW. There's a lot of stuff they got wrong. Here's Tyler's. I don't know what's going on with Mr. T. I think he probably had like a power outage or some shit. So I'll read a couple things off his notes because he took very detailed notes and they're good points. Eric says he brought Lex Luger to WCW. Wrong. Sting talked to Eric about Lex, and Eric said that he only met with him because he loved and respected Sting, and he wasn't a fan of Lex. Lex wasn't his first choice. Yeah. Eric has said that like a million times. I don't know why he said something different this time. But it was totally just a favor to Sting to bring in Luger. So there's that. They were talking about Brett bringing the title to WCW. It was never going to happen. Brett offered to lose to a lot of people, including the Brooklyn Brawler. But the main one was Ken Shamrock, who ended up... The funny thing is, the next pay-per-view after Survivor Series, In Your House DX was the name of the pay-per-view. The world title match is Shawn Michaels and Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, yep.
He was already in the world title picture at that point. So the fact that they couldn't give they couldn't figure out giving the title to Ken Shamrock, a guy that was well respected.
And
right?
he would have probably dropped. You could have given it to Shawn at In Your House DX. You could have still had the same match.
Even if you could have had a thing where he got screwed and you could have had a feud going there. But they fucked it up. Like, the screw job should have never happened. It never needed to happen.
All right, so this might be a hot take. I think Bret Hart came out looking like a fuckhead in this.
Oh
yeah. I've always, this is my hot take. I love Bret. I respect Bret, but I have always said he's kind of I'm not to use the word bitch, but he's always been whining.
Let it go, man. Especially the fact you came back like how many times and you did all
I'm almost as old as I'm old. I'm a year older than the screw job. Let it go, Brett.
And the way he talks about it, about how like it's the 9/11 of wrestling. Come on, Brett.
No, that was Muhammad Hassan.
And it gave us the character that's on my fucking profile pic here, Vince McMahon. So
that's right.
Sorry,
that's right. So
yeah, and they get into that. And to be fair,
they didn't touch Vince at all.
Yeah, they
Which
didn't
is so
touch
weird.
Right.
If you want to paint this picture, this is why I said at the start, it's a hit piece, but it's a bad one. And by bad, I mean you didn't even make him look that bad. If you wanted to go Vince McMahon's terrible, you didn't even show him dropping the N-word.
Yeah, the John Cena in front of Booker T. Where's
they didn't even mention that. Yeah, they didn't even mention that.
They didn't even have him be like, "I'm in Afghanistan." They didn't have any of that. Like,
what about his feud with Zach Gowen? They could have used that. He had Brock Lesnar throw him off stairs. Essentially.
What about that thing? The vignette they made JBL do, where he was kicking Mexicans at the border.
Yep.
And he was like threatening to kill them. And shit.
Oh, they did mention that they did use that's the next episode, but the DX blackface.
Yeah, they do mention that. They mention like they show it off for a second. They show off Big Boss Man hanging a lot of shit with the women, which is why when everyone says the Attitude Era was great, go back and watch it. There's a lot of shit in there. Like here's one. Big Boss Man feeding Al Snow his dog Pepper.
Okay, I thought that was funny.
Why?
I like that. I like that entire Big Boss Man run going to Big Show's funeral.
That's fine. That's fine for one person. But when you get Val Venus teaming up with the guy who's fucking John Bobbitt, whose wife cut his fucking dick off, and he's saving him from Kai and Ty and shit like that. It's like, what the fuck?
I got a point for you when we get to that episode. But this one, the Screwjob episode, it's a good episode. It's a good, but it's a bad Vince McMahon episode. This is when it became, it's not a Vince McMahon series. It's a WWE series now.
Yeah. It just became about the new generation. That whole little era.
If you really want to know about the Screwjob, watch Dark Side of the Ring season 1 and watch Hitman Hart Wrestling with Shadows about the Screwjob.
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect depiction.
I think didn't they play some clips from in there? Because that was the one. Was that the one that had the basic footage leading to
they had his wife yelling at Triple H.
I did like that part where he had the lead up to Brett punching Vince. I liked that lead up, but I didn't need to learn about the Screwjob again. I guess this was this was for casuals. This was for casuals.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. This is when it became a WWE doco and not a Vince doco.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be mentioned, yes, but you spend a lot of time putting it in perspective. You go, awesome.
What I don't understand was this was very much, there are still people who think the Screwjob was a work. Kevin Nash is one of them, and he's a fucking idiot. He needs to go hang out with Alex Shelley again. we were watching some old TNA stuff with Kevin Nash and Alex Shelley the other day. That shit's wild. I love it.
What's wrong with that song, Crackers?
Yeah. Where Kevin Nash turns to Jay Lethal. He's like, "Do it for us. Do it for the blacks."
Yeah.
Oh my God. I remember.
Here's the thing I do not get at all. They did a hit piece on a company Netflix did, that they just signed $1 billion fucking deal with.
Yep.
What? Why?
Yeah.
What is the logic behind this, right? Like, I get wanting to shit on Vince, but it turned into shitting on the entire company.
Yeah.
I know we're on the Screwjob part. I lost power, so I don't know like where we're at in the discussion point. But
I brought up like your Lex Luger point. I brought up the older Screwjobs, especially the Montreal one with Ed the Strangler Lewis that happened in the 40s.
Yeah.
We're talking about we basically covered the entire Screwjob.
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of actually at the end of episode 3 and moving into episode 4. If there's anything you want to quickly say on it, Mr. T.
Did you cover the one about Bischoff saying that that was his first idea to bring in Luger?
Yeah, we covered.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Sting was.
Like
it's bullshit. He always says that it was Sting's idea, and they just did it as a favor, and now he's like changing it up.
And the thing that pisses me off about the screw job about one thing is how they keep on saying that, like Shane said it. Oh, Brett was going to take the title down to WCW and do what they did with the women's title. First of all, Brett was never going to do that. Second of all, WCW or Turner would have never allowed that anyways, because it's a proven fact that practices and services, I believe, told Bischoff he can never do that again because they lost their ass in both those lawsuits they had against WWF with the whole Diesel and Razor Ramon stuff, and then the whole trashing of the belt. So he could have never done it anyways. That whole narrative is such garbage. I'm so sick of hearing about it.
And also, there's something I want to bring up. You could have went in on Vince, the hypocrisy of him complaining about one of his titles showing up on someone else's TV. What the fuck happened with Ric Flair, where Ric Flair left Georgia Championship Wrestling?
Crockett.
Yeah, sorry, Crockett.
Yeah, WCW.
At the time,
Crockett.
he was the World Heavyweight Champion, that big gold belt that we all remember. The first time it showed up on WWE programming was when fucking Ric Flair and Bobby Heenan came out, and it was not censored. They eventually started censoring it, but the first time, he's just standing there with the fucking other promotion's title.
They sort of touched on the Vince hypocrisy when they were saying when you were coming up, you were going around to the other territories back in the day, and you were buying everyone.
Yeah,
and now it's happening to you. Now it's a problem. They touched on that, but then they just left it. Vince had like some non-answer.
He's just like, well, it's different because they hate me.
Yeah. Well, two things about the whole thing about Flair, and then I'm going to talk about that too, because I thought when Vince said what he said about the Attitude Era, that he forgot stuff, I was like, dude, that ain't going to age well at all. I think the reason why Flair brought the title on the TV is because he owned the title, because he didn't get back his deposit. So back in those days, so if you were NWA champion, for anyone who doesn't know in the chat or whoever, back in the day, if you were the NWA champion, they made you take a deposit on the belt to make sure you made your dates, because if you didn't make your deposit when you lost the championship, you didn't get your money back for the deposit. So Flair had a deposit on the title. He was in a contract dispute with Jim Herd, who was a complete freaking moron. A guy who worked at Pizza Hut.
Wanted to turn him into Spartacus. Yes. Make him shave his head and call him Spartacus.
And put an earring in his ear. That's what he wanted to call him, Spartacus. And Flair and him were having discussions, and he told Flair to take. He's like, well, unless I get my money for the belt deposit, I am not coming to show it up to drop to the Luger, because they were supposed to be at their big pay-per-view of Great American Bash one of the years. And Jim Herd told him exact words, blow it out your ass. And he took the belt and called Vince, hey, I got the belt. They put it on his TV, because at that point, that was the oldest championship in wrestling. Was that?
Yeah, it was. That was the NWA belt. Was it not? No, it wasn't the NWA belt, but it was the belt. The NWA belt was separate from the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, that's when they did the whole merger with the NWA, they had the NWA title that they used like in TNA. That was like their original piece, but they changed the design because Crockett was trying to get away from the NWA because it was dying, and that's why they created the big gold belt. But they still kept the lineage from the NWA title to that one, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more we could say about this episode. For the sake of time, we're gonna have to move on, but there was a lot going on in episode.
Real quick before we move on, what do you guys think about the part where he said that there was no one dying knives and like people like pulling guns out?
That's the part that Twitter really latched on to.
Yeah,
where they were like, "Oh, we're fact checking him live." Like, it does look a bit silly.
They fact checked them in the thing. They showed the Pillman.
Yeah.
When Austin 316 meets Pillman
9mm Glock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he fucking, one of my favorite fucking segments in wrestling history. I fucking love that one.
I live in that area. They literally called the cops for real. People were actually calling the actual local police department and saying, hey, there's there's attempted murder going down right now on TV. You guys need to get there. But nevertheless,
they mentioned it. They didn't really mention. Again, here's another thing. They don't mention really anyone from the Attitude Era. Brian Pillman.
No.
Who? Yes, he wasn't in. I count 97 as the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I do too.
I count the start as WrestleMania 13.
Yeah.
but other people count as 14. So I think Brian Pillman is
Survivor
still
Series for me. That was my start for it.
Yeah, like when you're talking about people who are integral to that like time period in wrestling, Brian Pillman is somebody who did not live to see that, but he is immensely important to that. That kind of blurring the lines, being a little too edgy type of shit. That was Brian Pillman. Especially his stuff in ECW was fucking wild, where he was.
Yeah.
What was the promo where he was trying to whip his cock out and piss on the crowd?
Yeah, try to piss in the rings. I'm gonna pull my Johnson out and piss right in this ring because it's a shithole. Yeah.
And they mentioned ECW, but they only talked to Paul Heyman. No RVD.
And that's the thing, though. But people don't like. They didn't talk about that in the documentary. Vince had an investment in ECW because ECW was essentially the feeder system to the WWE back in the day. Because
kind of what TNA is now, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
No, even more though. Vince was giving.
Yeah, he was giving them
money.
That's the reason why they were able to survive. Was Vince, and that's why that's why the ECW filed for bankruptcy. That's why Vince was able to acquire it because he was the one making the payments besides Paul. That's why Paul. That's a whole different story for a different time. But Vince had an invested interest in ECW. That's why it lasted the way it did. But on that note,
let's move on to episode 4. Yes, episode 4.
Yep.
All righty. Mr. T, what did you think of episode 4?
I thought it was fine. There was just some things that Vince said that, he always wanted to be a TV character, which is true, I think, to a certain point of view. But even Bruce Pritchard said in his podcast, Vince thought when the whole Montreal Screwjob came out, he was going to be coming out the babyface. He thought people were going to understand why he did what he did in Montreal. And he's like, people are going to, they're going to understand, blah, blah, blah. But when Vince said, I always wanted to be a character. Yes, I agree. You always wanted to be a character, but not during that time. I don't think you wanted to be, from what I hear from Bruce Pritchard's podcast, he's always said that Vince always wanted to be the commentator. He didn't want people to know that he was the owner of the WWF, just as the commentator. That's it.
Yeah.
So that whole
that's why he had Jack Tunney as the GM.
Yeah, for years. Jack Tunney was the GM for the manager, whatever, the president of WWF at the time, whatever they called it. And Vince was the color commentator, which people can say what they want about Vince. Vince is not like a Jim Ross or Gordon Soley or anything like that.
What do you mean? He perfected the term. Oh, what a maneuver! Look at that guy right over there. Whoa!
Like Vince, he knew what he wanted. He's the owner of the company, so he knew what he wanted out of this match to make this match feel big enough, right? He knew what he wanted, but the commentating thing or the character thing, he said, that was his idea. That's wrong. That was other people said you need to do this, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. And that's when you get
also kind of cover that Eric Bischoff was already doing that, and he wasn't the first person either.
No, he wasn't.
There was always some authority figure in wrestling that would come in.
I do
and do something.
Yeah,
Eric was like, Vince did it better. He acknowledged Vince did it better.
Oh, he has to. Everyone would say you're smoking fucking crack.
Yeah.
Like, was Eric a good like villain kind of head dude? I think he was.
As a character,
I think it's better as Raw GM. Hot take. I think it's better as Raw GM.
Yeah, I think that
the key difference between him and Vince though was Eric was a lot more aligned, obviously, with NWO. Excuse me, sorry, which were already like the top, like the fan favorites and shit. Whereas Vince took way more of a heel approach. He really wanted to lean into the, what do they call it? The tyrannical overlord.
And they talked a bit about like him kind of, his character is a fucking great character. Like, especially if you go back to like after the screw job, Vince is very much he's still speaking like an announcer.
Yeah.
And he's talking and he's like, hey, this is inappropriate. Stone Cold, you cannot be doing this.
Yeah.
And it's slow. I think it's a slow build.
By the end of 98, he's fucking insane. Like
that's when you get the
his character just
voice,
goes insane. He's like, just screaming. He's kidnapped. He's getting his own daughter kidnapped. He's fucking.
He screwed over Austin. Was it Breakdown when he screwed over Austin? He was flipping him off, getting in the limo.
Yeah.
He's wrestling him in a fucking cage. He's like, set up his own faction of fucking goons and shit.
And then The Rock. I do like they mentioned the corporation. That was cool. They mentioned when The Rock joined Vince.
They only mentioned The Rock though. They didn't even say the corporation.
Yeah.
Like
the nation domination got more love.
Yeah.
And I feel like they barely mentioned DX. If you're gonna go the WWE doc route, they should have also did more about Rock and Austin and their matches. Because
the most underrated faction of the '90s is the corporation.
Yeah, the corporation was great. They were a great heel.
And they didn't talk about the higher power either, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, or as the Undertaker says, the Howard Power.
Yeah.
The Howard Power.
Yeah, you never heard that promo where he's talking about how he's going to reveal the Howard Power?
Oh, and they don't mention any of the tag team either. You notice that?
No, nothing on that.
And going back to Bischoff for a minute, you guys are saying like you think he was more diabolical as a GM of Raw. Never forget when he fired "quote unquote" Randy Anderson on TV. Who was battling cancer in front of his wife and kids.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he got a lot of shit for that. He got
3-minute warning. 3-minute warning stuff. That's why I thought Eric was better at WWE as a GM than his WCW.
Yeah, he basically became like he basically took a lot of what Vince was doing, and at some point Eric Bischoff kind of went insane as Raw GM. Like he just became an insane person.
Shaved his head. Remember that?
Yeah, he broke up a wedding dressed as a fucking priest and started pulling off prosthetics and shit.
Never forget he made out with Stephanie and both
Linda.
And
Linda.
And here's the real kicker. Vince was directing Bischoff how to kiss both of them.
Makes sense, actually.
That is a legit.
To be honest, if you're gonna kiss a guy's wife, you better know how to do it right. Come on.
Yeah, and they said they took like multiple takes with Stephanie too. He's like, "We gotta get it right, pal." God,
I guess because we're talking about Eric Bischoff, we kind of have to play this.
I'm back, and I'm better than ever.
we just need Marcus to redub it over.
I'm back. I'm better than ever. Yeah, do something like that. Trey, what did you think of episode 4?
It was good. It was, I guess, somewhat of an attitude error, Doc. But
I started with Mr. T. Oh, did I? Oh, Lethal, what did you think?
I'm back.
I don't know. I was a bit disappointed by it because there's so the Attitude Era could have its own series, so it was very condensed. The fact there was no Mick Foley, I think, is just atrocious when you're talking about the fucking Attitude Era.
I have a clip for Mick Foley in honor of the fact that he should have been involved. I know. I'm not the biggest fan of Mick Foley, but he's fucking huge.
Mankind, the great WWE hardcore man.
Jesus Christ. He's got more brain damage than Mick Foley.
And get back to Cream. Mick Foley is big. He's a fat ass. That's the only thing I gotta say.
The thing with this episode, and it's something you touched on earlier, Cream, was about how a lot of it hasn't aged, and that doesn't mean in a politically incorrect way. Like you just watch it and you go, that was always fucking stupid.
Yeah.
That they make a good point where they're like, we were always copying what was going on in the real world, hence Sergeant Slaughter and all that type of shit, Desert Storm, so we cut it. And they go, for better or for worse, the 90s was just an edgier time, okay? Yeah. And they were going, look at the music that was out, look at the video games that were out, look at the movies that were out. They were like, this is just what it was back then. So the alternative punk type of shit. So this is what we just rolled with, we just copied them. And you go, Some of it, actually, probably more than we care to admit, was always fucking stupid. But that's just the 90s. That's what it was back then. And they try to throw it in Vince's face and to be like, do you regret it? And it's like, well, you can't take today's morals and put it in the past. It just doesn't fucking work like that.
Yeah.
If we were to do that, then about 90% of it just wouldn't have flown. Even though about, 15% of it was probably always fucking cringe.
South Park was just started around the same time.
At one point, the two most popular shows on TV was Raw and South Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was huge. Oh my god, why am I thinking of the oddities now? The fucking
that's what I mean. They even made a character that was a callback to South Park.
He had another good part where it was like they showed one of his interviews where they were like, "Yeah, we probably are already pushing it, but I mean, we can do more." And it gets to this, and fuck, someone even says it. They go, "Who's worse, the people doing it or the people cheering for it?"
Yeah.
Triple H said that.
The early 2000s that's where it's like this went too far, right?
Yeah.
I think the peak of that ruthless aggression stuff where they went too far was one they never mentioned. Muhammad Hassan.
Yep.
Or Muhammad Hassan. Well, they showed Katie.
They talked about Katie. They showed it, but they didn't talk about Muhammad Hassan. Anyone who doesn't remember Muhammad Hassan, basically he had a rivalry with The Undertaker. And then he was gone. He was an Italian guy that they did up to make him Arab.
Yeah.
And he this was after post 9/11, and he was talking about, you all people just hate me because I'm Arab, right? Going off of the fact that there was a lot of Arab people getting beaten in the street, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. And then they turned him into just a terrorist ringleader. Like he had dudes. There was an episode of SmackDown.
Yep.
Where the Undertaker gets gang beat by dudes with batons and like military fatigues
they
and
literally look like
ISIS.
ISIS.
They
were
look
ISIS,
like ISIS.
basically.
And it happened. It aired the exact same day as the London bombings.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they went to. That was the one where it was like, we went too far. And Muhammad Hassan, after Great American Bash, which was the next pay-per-view, he was gone forever. The guy never even wrestled under another gimmick in WWE again.
Taker last rided him. Was it through the?
Yeah, that's
through the stage or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was gone. Yeah. And I think that was where it was, oh fuck, we went too far. And from that point, I would say they started scaling back, and they really scaled back when Linda ran for fucking Senate.
PG
era. Linda McMahon was running for U.S. Senate.
Yep.
That's when you get the PG. They don't even bring that up. They bring up the fact she was in cabinet.
Somewhat, dude.
Yeah.
They Dave fucking. Why is Dave Meltzer in this so much? I'm just gonna say it. Why is he in this so much?
Well, I'm the wrestling historian. I'm a Mongoloid with a fucking jughead, so I know everything.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the stills, I think when you put it in the Discord, I was like, "Why the fuck am I seeing Dave Meltzer?"
Yeah.
You have Triple H. You have all these The Rock names, and then Dave Meltzer.
We should bring up. This is the episode where they really start to push the whole sex addict thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then they got all the women that they were getting to strip and shit.
Yep.
Fuck man, bitch.
Trish. They bring up the dog segment, which is constantly whined about. She gets
the one where Trish is no, it was good. It did what it needed to do.
Vince got his comeuppance at WrestleMania, but even that same year, that was the same year he had his kiss Rikishi's ass. If you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of that shit ever gets bringing up. They show when Shawn Michaels forces
Shane's face.
Shane, yeah. But they don't show when the other way happened. They never show that.
Got his ass shoved in a lot. Big Show, the time with Big Show.
Yeah.
So this idea, Vince never got comeuppance. Oh, he did bad things. He got bad things done to him back though.
Yeah.
All the fucking time.
This is also the episode that starts off with it starts off with 30 seconds really talking about the Playboy interview. So if you didn't know, Vince McMahon did not grow up with his father. Vince grew up in North Carolina with his mother, his stepfather. His stepfather constantly beat him.
Yep.
His mother constantly beat him as well, but also raped him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember finding that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then it's just never mentioned again.
And it's never mentioned again because I don't think he brought it up only once in his entire lifetime.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty sore subject for him. And I think it also explains a lot of why we could say he's a little fucked in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
But
sure.
he does say,
but no,
though,
we have to hear about 83 weeks more.
But he does say, though, and it is interesting in hindsight because of, what happened at the start of this year with the fucking sex trafficking and shit. He does say, though, he goes, a lot of people who are abused end up becoming abusers. And he basically says, yeah, but that's a fucking cop-out. You're responsible for your own actions.
He does. Yep. Yeah. Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, you're like, well...
I mean, he did one.
Unless the best thing Vince could do in this situation is just turn around and go, listen, I was going to be a predator regardless. That's the best way he could respond to this now.
Plus, it doesn't age well. Go ahead, Green.
It explains a lot of... Jack of all casuals is right.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to read... Yeah, it explains a lot of that. Like, oh...
Yeah, the scrap storyline.
Yeah,
the scrap storyline about how
Stephanie
he was going to impregnate his daughter.
Yep.
And at one point it was going to be Shane.
Yep.
And by the way,
Shane,
this is when Stephanie was actually pregnant with her first child.
What Triple H is
This was like 05, 06?
Yeah.
06.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird family angles. Like at one point, Hornswoggle was supposed to be his long lost kid.
It was.
Yeah. It was originally Sandman, right?
It was originally Ken Anderson, Ken Kennedy.
Yeah, it was going to be Anderson, and then it was Hornswoggle, and
for a more comedic effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of family angles.
And they didn't mention Do-Rag Vince. I just thought about it. They didn't mention Do-Rag Vince at all.
Yeah.
No, it was never mentioned.
They didn't even mention that Vince had a brother, Rod. I think his name was it's Rod McMahon. So I assume it's Roderick McMahon or whatever, right? Whatever his last name was, but it
was Roderick Strong.
Yeah.
Roderick Strong,
the Messiah of molestation. But anyways, but plus that's the same interview too. Vince said he forgot that he did a storyline with Sable. I thought it was hilarious how Paul spoke up and he's like looking at Paul. He's like, in storyline, Vince, in storylines. Like, you didn't really do it.
I think he's starting to lose his.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's just dementia.
It explains a lot, though. It kind of does. Because when he said it, the last episode we covered, there was no knives, there was no gun, there was no kill, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there was. And you said
there definitely, there definitely was. You had to go on TV and talk about it the next week after the Brian Pillman shit, right?
Yeah. Owen Hart. Owen,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that too.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over it. Yeah, they do talk about Owen. Yeah, it's yeah, they talked about Owen, but this one is when we're basically episode 6 now?
5, right?
5, yeah.
5.
Talk about Benoit. Here's a theory I have. What if he has fucking dementia, and that's why he's doing all this weird shitting on women stuff now? It's because he's actually just like losing his marbles, dementia.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah, I could believe that.
That's a possibility I'm bringing up, and like I'm thinking of that. Not to say that he wasn't doing
like he had it during
before.
He seemed like he had it during that because there were moments he's like trying to remember shit.
Yeah.
And
Lethal has dementia as well. But all right, we've been going for a while here, so let's speed through 5. Let's speed through 6. Is basically just it all fell apart. Like
6, there's not actually a whole lot to say, I don't reckon. Sorry,
No.
5. Sorry.
5 is
the one
Benoit.
Was
Five is
five
Benoit,
Benoit? I
yeah.
thought they did Benoit in the Attitude one, and that's how they ended.
No. Benoit's a 6th episode because after the 6th episode, that's when they go into all the allegations of Vince getting caught with that Janelle.
No, because six is the Trump one. That's where it starts out with Trump.
Okay. Yeah,
5 is Benoit.
Right. You're right.
5 is Benoit, and with that, yeah, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Stone Cold says CTE does not exist.
Yeah, that I love Austin. He's my goat. I'll say flat out say he's my wrestling goat. But that was retarded.
That
was fucking
stupid,
retarded,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
You can't help but wonder if maybe he's got it. You can't help but wonder if maybe if he's got it, and that's why he's so
he did
fucking
take
dumb.
a lot of chair shots to the face. He did.
He does like beating women.
Yeah.
It's fucked. The whole Benoit situation is fucked.
Yeah.
I don't think WWE did anything necessarily wrong in that. But for Vince to go on and say that him working in WWE had nothing to do with what he did, that's obviously not true. Now, can you blame Vince? No. Chris Benoit worked the style where he was fucking headbutting people. That was his finish.
Diving headbutts. And how many chair shots he took? They showed a montage of just him taking chair shots.
And by the way, he probably got CTE before he even got the fucking WWE.
Yeah, because he was in ECW for a minute, and ECW
and WCW and Japan and all over. So you can't necessarily blame WWE, but there are certain things they got rid of, right? Like they talk about the chair shots to the fucking head.
Taker even talked about how he didn't like it at first.
Yeah,
he's like, that's a staple.
Which I thought that was kind of a Mark thing to say. No pun intended. I thought that was pretty much Mark shit to say about the whole chair shot to the head. I think that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, but that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Like, I miss him. Like, yeah, it made a feud more effective. I'll just say it. It did.
Well,
especially a good chair shot, but I understand why they got rid of it.
Well,
then you think of like Royal Rumble 90, is it 98 or 99 with The Rock?
99.
With Foley, and that's fucking disgusting.
Well, he rocked it way too far.
Ken Shamrock one. Even the Ken Shamrock one where Ken Shamrock, come on. And then
just not even 2 weeks ago. What was it? All in. The chair shot that Hangman gave to Swerve Strickland. That was too much, I thought.
Yeah.
It was just.
Yeah, that wasn't a good. Yeah.
But moving on.
Vince, what did you think of Vince Lethal? What did you think of?
What did I think of? What? Sorry.
Chris Benoit. This whole episode where they're talking about Benoit.
Yeah.
It was interesting to get them to actually speak up about it because, like you said, they always avoid it as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
Again, though, like I come back to the same point. Go, this is a WWE doco and not the Vince doco I was promised.
Yeah.
Like, I actually preferred the second half of this episode where it was talking more about Stephanie and Shane because that was more about his. Yeah. That's more about Vince, right? The Benoit section. The best parts was when they were cutting to everybody to speak about it, and they got to John Cena, and he's like, "Oh, I think I'm the wrong guy to ask about this one."
Yeah. Well, they didn't even cover how, like we said earlier, it almost took the entire industry down. Benoit pretty much took the majority of the industry down. TNA, WWE, whatever, took the whole genre down because everyone thought that these roided up freaks that had problems, and this is what they do. They just want to murder their families.
Yeah. It really fucked over the indies. Like it set the indies back by I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It was worse for the indies than COVID was.
They had a good part where they were talking about how, we do the memorial episode, and as soon as the episode finished, we got more information, and we're like, oh fuck, what have we just done? The dude's a monster.
Yeah. And if I can make a comment, because that Meltzer's comments and Phil Mushnick's comments, how Meltzer said that wrestling fans do not care about wrestlers' deaths. They're worried about the next character to step up. And Phil Mushnick said the same thing. Fans don't care when guys die. Fuck you both. I wish you both would die in Minecraft. You're both pieces of shit for saying that.
The Eddie reaction. The Eddie reaction was big, man. That hit the wrestling world. That was a big one.
What an asinine thing to say.
They never mentioned Eddie Guerrero in this.
No mention of Eddie Guerrero. That should have mentioned him in the Attitude Era one.
Yeah. What were you saying, Lethal?
Oh, that was it. There was no mention of Eddie Guerrero.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't even think about that till just now. That was huge too.
Yeah.
Well, because that plays into the Benoit thing.
You could have actually blamed that.
Thing.
Well, yeah, it was what really set Benoit over.
Mushnick he kind of brought it up when he's talking about the death. Like he said, people are dying like in their hotel bathroom. That's what Eddie did. He died in his hotel bathroom. But still, he didn't call him out by name because he's a fucking gutless pussy. Fucking bitch.
And that one partly was steroids. They were abusing steroids. They were abusing painkillers. They were abusing like a lot of shit. I think that more has to do with like the Oxycontin shit, which nobody ever brings up with wrestling. We talk about Oxycontin and how fucked it was, and people overdosing who were just going in for like a routine like back surgery, and their back is fucked, right? But we never talk about like, hey, maybe Oxycontin also led to all these deaths of these celebrities here. And they started doing that now with like musicians and actors who were passing away. And it's like, oh, okay, they're addicted to like Oxycontin or some sort of painkiller. But with wrestlers, it was always blamed on steroids.
Yeah.
A little interesting that now things have kind of changed, and the steroids are kind of back to what it used to be. Is like, okay, don't take 1 million steroids. They're going to shrink your balls. But like, the steroids isn't going to make you angrier. It's just going to help you recover, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Something like Oxycontin can change your personality. It can cause someone to beat their wife that would never.
If steroids caused violence, there'd be no industry because everyone would be dead.
Yeah. And if you look when people started to die, it's when Oxycontin came out.
Yeah. Because I was getting irked when they kept mentioning, all these wrestlers died young. I'm like, Ric Flair is still wrestling.
Ric Flair, that was the first one that came to my mind. I got one more in me. You're like, oh my god, dude.
Hogan's not wrestling, but he's still alive.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of guys
in that in this doco as well. Okay.
Oh yeah, Hogan's been alive.
Bruno Sammartino
probably the last one.
I don't know if Bruno took steroids. Actually, I'm thinking about that.
No. Yeah, he did.
I know this was from the last episode. Remember when fucking basically Meltzer insinuated he basically called us incels. Because all y'all were cheering on the pretty girl getting, I guess, embarrassed.
All the hot chicks.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Fuck. He's never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like hot women. What's the fucking problem, Meltzer? I know I'm not.
But I guess
I'm not gay like he is.
Let's talk about this.
Wasn't she a bad guy when that was happening to her? When she was getting humiliated? Or was it Trish?
Oh, hey.
Trish. Yeah.
Off topic, but no mention of China.
No.
Yeah, they skipped over China. Yeah.
This is why I think it was a bit of a letdown. Like, as much as it was enjoyable to watch, one, it wasn't really about Vince. It turned into a WWE doco, and they skipped so much.
China's a big one. That could have been a quote-unquote hit.
They could have played the China angle.
Because if for anyone who doesn't know, China was obviously a porn star, very successful, a wrestler as well. She was dating Triple H, and Triple H cheated on her with Stephanie McMahon. She found out, and Vince fired her for finding it out. Basically, it's okay, now you know. So Vince knew that this was being hid, and then let her go because of that. And her being let go kind of led to her life spiraling out of fucking control. And they weren't great people to each other. They both were apparently really abusive to each other. Triple H and China, they would beat the fuck out of each other, apparently. Like domestic abuse on both sides, right? It's a fuck situation. But yeah, that's that's about it for episode 5. Episode 6. We start off with Donald Trump. Money. We gotta play the Donald Trump theme song.
Sit down, look at the computer. It says fuck people,
Invisible touch, bitch.
What did he say fuck me for?
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement this is the worst episode.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
of
yeah.
course.
He's
It was a wet part, man. Nothing happened. They mentioned the thing that happened in Ashley overseas, right? Ashley Massaro. They mentioned that.
They mentioned that barely.
But I can't speak on it because I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just gonna say it. You don't know.
I think I've seen enough to where I'm like, I think it did happen. But I don't know if WWE necessarily covered it up though. That's the thing. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't put it past them to do that, but I just don't know enough on
Ashley Mazzaro. If I can speak on that for a minute, we'll move on. She said that she told Vince, and Vince told her to not bring it up because she said that Vince told her that these guys are under a lot of stress and they need the release. That's what she said that Vince told her. Now, if it's true, we don't know. She's gone. Vince never commented on it. He probably don't even remember anyways. So it's two sides to every story, or everyone else says there's a
we'll never
story. So
we'll never get the truth of it.
No.
Yeah, it's the whole 6th episode. This is where like there's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
That I don't even think a lot of like more like actual fans of wrestling even know how much like scumbaggy shit was going on.
Yeah.
And that like they didn't talk about Punk.
No.
That was a big one. The fact that they were made, he got a staph infection almost. Like he almost fucking died. And they wanted him to wrestle and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Plus, they fired him on his wedding day, too.
They fired him on his fucking wedding. Like, that's the type of shit. I know Punk is fine now. He's cool. He does, he's got no problem with them now. You could have brought that up. And I think if you brought that up, a lot of people who were in that doc would have been like, we fucked up there. We fucked up badly with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of shit. They went into Trump for a while, but they glossed over the entire 2010.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. They they glossed over the ruthless era. I guess they forgot to mention that in 5. There was a ruthless
they spent a lot of time with Benoit, right? But they did gloss over. They kind of glossed over a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
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 They mentioned John Cena's rise for like a second, how he got his character, which is like why.
Yeah, and I thought Cena was going to be more used in the documentary. He was only using that episode.
Yeah. Again, though, it's like this is supposed to be a Vince doco.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're getting a section dedicated to Cena.
They should be brought up when it relates to Vince, right?
Yeah.
So if Cena isn't involved in a Vince-related scandal, why is he being brought up?
Right.
I think that's... Yeah, it was a terrible fucking ending.
Well, let me put this in perspective. Most of this, about like 90% of this was filmed before the start of the year when the sex trafficking shit came out.
Yep.
After the sex trafficking shit came out, there is not a new interview with Vince. So there's nothing.
Yep, they quit.
The only new interview is Bruce Pritchard and Dave Meltzer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And some guys from Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
What's supposed to be the Vince series? You think you'd pressure him going, dude, come on, come out and speak. This could have been the first time Vince has spoken.
And that Dave Schumacher guy, I don't know why he was even there because he knows dick all about wrestling.
I think
I don't know why he was
helped.
there.
I think just because he helped write one of the articles about the Vince sex stuff. They gloss over the fact that there was the massage parlor thing.
Yeah.
Like there's a really creepy element to that where he apparently sat in a car across in an alleyway and just stared at the massage parlor and the woman being interviewed by the police, and he just stared at her for an hour. And they didn't bring that up. It's like that's actually in the report, bro. That happened.
There's
we're like, what the fuck is he doing over there? He's just staring at us.
Well, besides this one, remember Vice TV came out with one last year. They did a documentary about Vince, and there was more stuff about allegations from the past into the present than this one even covers.
Yeah.
So
when Vice does it better, and Vice is shit.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, but the wrestling stuff will keep them afloat. I think
It was stuff we already known, and like we haven't. Let's be real. There's been no real update about the whole Vince thing for months.
Well,
no. Besides pooping on women,
I mean,
but that was already in there. Like, there's been nothing since it came out.
Yeah. Well, they said that in the documentary at the end. I don't know if anyone else saw that, but it said something about her lawsuit against Vince is paused because the DOJ, Department of Justice, is now investigating the whole thing. So now her lawsuit's on hold. Well, here's the thing. That whole thing was consensual. She knew what she was doing. She's only showed that she's only showed Vince's text. She's not shown what she replied back. She's not.
They did. I believe it was, I forget who, but somebody did bring that up. Like, hey, we're only seeing one side of this right now.
Yep.
And the fact that Vince isn't fighting it is also a little sketchy. I think Vince did do this shit.
Yeah,
now
he did.
Oh, he did it, but like Trey
he did it.
said, he said she agreed with it. She was fine.
I just don't. I won't call it rape. Or trafficking, which
the trafficking thing. That's where
Brock Lesnar and
we need a lot more info on that.
We need more. But I'm not going to call the man a rapist.
You can't. If she agreed to it, it's not. It's the Weinstein thing. If you suck my dick, you can be in the movie. Okay. Yeah. Dick was sucked. Actress is a movie. Contract fulfilled. Same thing with Vince. You allow me to take a shit in your mouth.
Yeah.
You can be pushed as a star. Your mouth has been shit in. You get your push. Contract fulfilled.
But here's the thing too. Like the reports originally said she was like 20. And then it was like, oh no, sorry, we forgot 20 years. She's in her 40s. And this was something, oh my God, I forget who I was talking this to. But they were like, what kind of 40-year-old lets someone shit in their mouth if they're not into it?
Yeah. Yeah,
by 40 years old, you know if you're into that.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. She only came forward when the hush money stopped. That's it. When she stopped getting paid, that's just like, okay, well, this is time for me to
It was always... It was definitely to push Vince out. I do agree with it. I think it was Razor Fist who said that. I agree with that. This was definitely...
Well, here's my thing. It showed documentation. They said Vince bought her Bloomingdale and Macy gift cards, and he gave her money for what she was doing. Okay? So, and she agreed upon that. Like I said, this whole thing was a consensual thing. It only went sour when the money stopped coming in. Yeah. Now, I'll probably get some heat from that from probably the IWC, but fuck them. They never seen a fucking pussy in their entire life in real life, so fuck them. So who gives a shit?
I said this the other day. We're going to be the most objective about this whole Vince thing compared to a lot of other channels.
Where I think he might be kind of fucked, though, is the trafficking thing is, like I said, we need more info on that.
Yeah.
But there might be something to that.
Yeah, I mean, you can consent to being trafficked. It doesn't make it legal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's something that could end up happening with the Sable stuff. Well, here's the thing: like when that stuff happened, she was not married to Lesnar. Is when she came back, she started cheating on Mark Marrow
in 2004.
Yeah. So it was once she came back after her lawsuit that she cheated on her husband
with
Mark Marrow. And then with Brock Lesnar, and then got married, right?
But this happened in 2021. The whole sexual affair with Brock to resign.
He's still married with. They're still married.
Yes,
from what I
apparently the only thing Brock asked for was a piss video, and I think if he only asked for a piss video, I don't know what the big deal is. He's not
give the man a piss video. Come on.
I mean, he's just it's someone pissing. He's not actually doing anything. It's someone like literally pissing in the can. That's it. Period. It shouldn't be losing your job over it. But besides that,
that's it. That's the Vince McMahon doc. We're gonna wrap this up because I know Lee. But just quickly, I want to get everybody's final thoughts. Trey, let's start with you, big Simone Cripp. What are your final, very quick thoughts on the Vince McMahon documentary by Netflix that was released on September 25th, 2024 at exactly midnight?
It was all right. I'm the more I think about it, the more we're talking about it. I'm at a 6 now. It glossed over a lot. I didn't like a lot of the moral outrage from some of the stuff, especially the Attitude Era one. Oh, y'all are so misogynistic. Some of those segments. It was straight up a WWE doc, not a Vince doc. So and that last episode just was nothing.
Yeah. Mr. T, what do you think?
I think it was a hit piece. I think they knew what they were going to do before all this stuff came out. They wanted to make him look like a complete sexual deviant, which he might be, but that's his business. And I think the whole trafficking thing, I think that's a bunch of dog shit. Like I said, there's two sides to every story. And if I were to give this a rating, I'm taking shades of my boy Brett. I give it 4 out of 10. I just did not like this. There was the information, like you said earlier, half the stuff we already knew. It was just reworded to fit the narrative and shit like that. Like we already knew half the stuff. It's just I will never watch this documentary again.
No,
the last 2 episodes for me dragged. The other episodes are fine, but the rest of it just started to drag for me. So yeah, I give this a 4 out of 10, and yeah, I'm glad it's over with. So
all right, Lethal, what are your thoughts? Big man Lethal. What do you think?
I think I enjoyed it a bit more than you guys, but everything you said is right. It was a hit piece, but I still think as a hit piece, it was a weak hit piece.
Yeah.
There's so much more they could have worked with to spin and use against him. Shit, there's some stuff that's fucking true that they could have used against him that they never did.
Yep.
Right. And like I said at the start, I actually came out liking Vince a bit more in this than I already did.
Same.
Because to me, it showed like how much he actually overcame.
Yeah.
And how much bullshit was thrown against him for his whole life. Is he a sexual deviant? I'm not going to say is he. I'm going to say he very clearly is. But again, that's his business. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
It was all consensual.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is it just wasn't a Vince series. It was a WWE series. And as a WWE series, it missed so much. I think Dark Side of the Ring blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone else has said. I mean, it's poorly done, poorly executed, and isn't even really a Vince doc, which is what we wanted out of it.
I think the only thing we give it a positive is the production value. That's it.
Oh, of course.
It's
my positive. I like the moment they
filmed.
showed Vince doing the Bob Costas interview. Just the one interview where he smacked the papers out.
Smacks the paper out of his hands and shit.
That shit was funny. And he was getting close. I'm like, what, pal? I'm like,
I wanted
to
get into that too. Bob Costas is a little bitch pussy, but that's it. I'm done.
That's true. All right. Well,
the advertising. The advertising was false advertising.
Yeah, it was false advertising for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that now, I think it's time to go home, right?
Yeah, I believe it's time to let's wrap it up. Wrap it up. If you're gonna fuck a hoe, you better wrap it up. All right. Speaking of wrapping it up, Trey, what you got coming up?
Got some reviews coming up. I'm gonna review the first Terrifier. I'll be watching that soon. Just the new one's coming out in 2 weeks. That's about it.
All right, drop your link, Trey, in the chat. We need that link. We need it. Drop it. Give it to us. Give us a good link.
To answer your question, it's on Hulu. I don't think it's on YouTube. It might be, but the full episodes that I know of are on Hulu.
Yeah, some of them are on YouTube, I think. Mr. T, what you got coming up?
Man, I got nothing coming up. But
you got this coming up.
Next week, we do have announcement. We will not be streaming. There will be no stream next week. Because next week is Bad Blood. So, in the Discord that we've got, we're going to maybe, sort of, kind of watch the pay-per-view maybe in the Discord. Maybe. Allegedly.
Maybe we'll watch an old Bad Blood. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Most definitely not. Yes, I will be dropping the link for the Discord right here, right now. Come in here. We're going to be doing a lot of events. When I believe we're going to watch one of the Halloween Havocs on Halloween.
Yeah.
Maybe not on Halloween, but around Halloween.
And
maybe that
November will be
maybe,
easy.
maybe that
Survivor
Wednesday.
Series. We do an old Survivor Series, right, for November?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll do that for November. But for October, we will watch an old Halloween Havoc. Maybe we'll leave it up to a poll in the Discord. We'll find the best ones. For my money, I think we should do the one where Hulk Hogan kills the Big Show by throwing him off of a roof, and then the Big Show comes back to life and wrestles against the Yeti. Lethal, you got anything you want to promote?
Tomorrow I have the Black Myth Wukong review coming out.
Nice.
But after that, I'm fucking off to Japan for almost 2 weeks. So, yeah.
Konnichiwa. Lethal-san.
I got to complete my training.
Are you going to tell me if you belong to Cobra Kai? You're going to be on Team Cobra Kai or a karate thing?
I can't say it on stream, but I'll put it in the private chat what I'm learning. There you go. That's my training.
I respect it.
Respect. Yeah.
Is Cream frozen?
Yes.
Alive.
Yeah.
Hello?
I see you now. Yeah.
Hello? Am I
now.
here? Am
You're
I
good.
living?
Here.
Am I alive? I think
Yeah.
one of the Starlink satellites was fucking going over. Hey, I've got something to promote here. Ladies and gentlemen, but mostly the ladies. Shout out to all the women's of the world. Or some, I don't know. Fucking. Anyways, go sub to Gronk Squad. Gronk Squad is gearing up for the greatest comeback since me doing your mom. All right. It is gearing up when Lethal gets back from Japan. Gronk Squad will be back, ladies and gentlemen. But we will still be streaming on there until the videos are back. And so we'll be doing streams on there. We're going to be having some fucking wild shit going on while Lethal's gone. We're probably gonna commit crimes of passion. Not actual crimes, just crimes of passion. Yeah. Somebody's Discord got muted. Well, with that, you know what? Let's get the fuck out of here. All right. All right. Peace out, boys. Thank you for coming.
All right, later,
Bye,
y'all.
Lethal. And that's the end of the show.
Listen me put it down. I'm the hottest round. I tell your mother, y'all can stop me now. Listen to me now. I'm lasting 20 rounds. And if you want me, nigga, then come and get me now. Is you with me now? The biggie bounce. I know you dig the way I switch my style. Hello, people sing around. How people get around. Now people jump around. Go get your freak on. Go get your freak on. Go get your freak on. Go